Okay, so here's a wild idea. What if the very tools we use to think could actually grow and evolve right along with us? Today, we're jumping into that powerful concept from Oliver Ding's book, Meta Frameworks, and looking at how we can move past those static, old mental models.
We all do it, right? We build these little mental models, these frameworks to help us navigate our jobs, our relationships, our big creative projects. But have you ever had that feeling where your old ways of thinking just aren't cutting it anymore? As the world just keeps getting more and more complex?
And that's really the heart of the issue. We rely on these structures to give us clarity, but they can so easily become these little boxes that we can't think outside of. So, in this explainer, we're going to explore how to break free from that rigidity and start cultivating a much more dynamic way of seeing the world.
So how do we even get there? Well, the journey into meta frameworks isn't some abstract, academic exercise. It actually started with a very real, super practical problem that, honestly, a lot of us face.
See, the author Oliver Ding didn't just start with some grand theory. He started by watching how real people actually use and develop their own personal systems of concepts over time. And what he found was that our most powerful ideas don't come from rigid, pre-made templates, but from frameworks that kind of emerge and adapt as we work on real-world projects and just live our lives.
This whole thing led him on this incredible multi-year intellectual adventure, where the ideas themselves actually evolved, from just simple clues into this whole comprehensive system for understanding how knowledge itself develops.
And this timeline right here, it basically maps out that entire journey. You can literally see the progression, right? It starts with things like clues and themes, then it moves on to concepts and frameworks. Each one of these projects builds on the last one, leading up to the big idea of meta frameworks, which is really a way to understand the whole system of how we create knowledge. You could almost call it a framework for building frameworks.
Okay, so after that whole journey, what's the big takeaway? What exactly is a meta framework, and why should you care? What makes it so powerful?
So here's the core definition. A meta framework isn't just another tool in your belt, it's the whole toolbox. It's this higher-level system that helps you choose, combine, adapt, and even create the specific mental models you need for whatever you're working on. And this is a really important shift in thinking. Meta frameworks aren't meant to be these rigid, perfect systems. They're what we call creative heuristics, basically flexible guides that don't even have to be complete to be super useful. They help you organize your thoughts, they spark new ideas, and they just make for better conversations even when they're still a work in progress.
I love this quote from the author because it just perfectly captures the whole vibe of this project. This is not for people who are looking for a simple plug-and-play solution. Nope. This is for the curious minds out there who want to understand the very process of understanding and who want their tools for thinking to be as alive and dynamic as they are.
So how do we actually put this stuff into practice? Well, the meta framework approach gives us this really powerful toolkit for mapping both our inner thoughts and the outer social world. Let's look at the three key pieces. We've got the map, the landmarks, and the compass.
First up, we've got the map. This is the HLS framework. As you can see, it connects our personal, internal world, our mental system, our body, our sense of self, with the bigger social and cultural systems that are all around us. It's a way of placing our own personal experience into a much, much larger context.
Okay, now let's build on that map. If the HLS framework is our map, then these 6 faces are kind of like the major landmarks. This diagram points out all the different kinds of concept systems that exist on that map. Everything from our own personal mental platforms to the big shared cultural frameworks of our society. It gives us a language to talk about the different structures we use to think.
And finally, every good map needs a compass, right? This is the Weave the Culture model, and it shows us the 4 key forces that actually drive change. You've got mental moves, which are internal shifts in thinking. Social moves are actions out in the world. Strategic curation, which is how we gather and organize ideas. And generative narrative, the stories we tell that create a shared meaning. Altogether, these forces are what shape our personal and collective evolution.
So the crucial point here is that this isn't just some abstract theory you have to memorize. It's actually a lens that we can start applying to our own lives and our own way of thinking, like right now.
Now, to be clear, the full book is massive. I mean, look at that, nearly 400,000 words. It's a really deep, comprehensive archive of this entire intellectual journey. We really just scratched the surface here, giving you the essential toolkit to get you started.
And that's the real takeaway. The goal is not to memorize the HLS framework or any other model from the book. No, it's to use these ideas to become more self-aware, to start noticing the mental models you're already using every single day, and to see them not as fixed rules, but as living, breathing things that you can actually nurture and develop over time.
So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Think about a project you're working on right now, or maybe a big goal you have. What are the core mental models, the frameworks, that you're using to guide you? And here's the important part. Are they still working for you? Or is it maybe time for them to evolve?